Today on Simply Happy Conversations, I'm talking with Sarah from Sort by Sarah. She's a decluttering expert and organising whiz, and she's based in Sydney. And she is the person, if you are moving anywhere in Sydney and you need help downsizing, packing, unpacking, she is the person to be reaching out to. So today she's going to be sharing some hacks and tips to make out your next move a little easier, seamless and smooth. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Narelle. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thanks so much for making the time to come on to talk about moving and what people can do, because it is a really stressful time for people. Let's start so that people can get to know you a little bit. If you were a Barbie doll, what two accessories would you come with?
Ooh, really fun question. I love Barbie. Look, professionally, I think the thing that I use most in my toolkit is painter's tape. So, you know, the blue or green tape. Yeah. I use it for absolutely everything, especially when you're moving. So it's used on furniture because it doesn't mark the furniture, to show removalists where to place furniture in the new home. I use it when I'm setting up a kitchen. So the client, I'll actually mark glassware, tea and coffee plates, because it's a new setup in a kitchen. So it's just a really quick, easy way to make the unpack really efficient for us, but also for the client to know where to find things. It's great if you have a move and there's items going to storage or to another destination. So I use different coloured tape for different destinations. Secondly, Barbie accessory, definitely chopsticks and a soup spoon.
Oh, what does that significant? What is about the chopstick?
I don't know. I love food, but look, soups and noodles, they're pure comfort for me, and a food group of their own.
Oh, amazing. And you live in Sydney as well. So
I do.
I wouldn't have expected you to be, I love soup, and that's one thing I'm looking forward to moving into that winter period. But I wouldn't have thought people in Sydney would be as inclined to love soups as much.
Oh no, it's everyday lunch most of the year.
Yeah. Oh wow. So that would be really useful too, the work that you do, to take a flask with soup in it with you as well, and quite easy and nutritious.
Absolutely. I love it. It's actually how I love to spend, especially when winter weekends, is making a big pot of soup for the week.
Yeah. Same on the weekends. So what strengths do you bring then to the business, especially around, obviously, the packing, that type of part that you really love doing and you do most of?
Sure.
And helping people move?
Look, like you, I'm a professional organizer. So, I help people with overwhelm. And we all know how stressful and time consuming moving is. It's paralyzing for a lot of people. So, I think my strength is really bringing calm and clarity to the entire moving process. And it's almost that reassurance. I think that's my superpower, is just, showing that I'm in control and everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's what people need, don't they? So then it's almost like you can see their shoulders go down and go, oh, yes, she's got this. She's going to look after me. And obviously being really organised as well. Have you always been a really organised person?
Yes, in certain parts of my life. Look, admin paperwork, not my strength. I will run a mile from that, but the logistics, the planning, the big picture, definitely where I feel most comfortable.
Yeah, and that's what you need to actually facilitate a really successful move, isn't it? And having this, like a professional like you doing that, makes all the difference. So then tell us, what do we need to consider before we even start packing? What would be something that we need to do before we even start packing? Because there's so many things, isn't there?
Look, there's so many things to do, but there's probably two things that you can do that are really going to set you up for a successful move. People really underestimate how much stuff they have. When they see their life in boxes, it's it's pretty confronting stuff. So I think the average move is average move for a three bedroom home, couple of kids is probably anywhere between about 80 to 100 boxes. And I think the first thing that you should do is declutter. I know that sounds so simple, but declutter with purpose and have a clear plan. So when you're decluttering, you need to allow time, but you also need to have a plan for where are you going to take these items? Is it your local charity store? Do you need to book a curbside waste collection well in advance when you know your moving date? So just having a bit of a plan of how you are going to reduce the volume of your contents, because ultimately what that means is you are going to spend less time packing and less money on removalist fees.
Oh, definitely. So imagine a family. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, imagine a family that potentially just packed everything, could potentially have, 180 boxes. But if they declutter before, it could be down to that 100 to even 80.
Absolutely. And I see it all the time. It's usually when I'm doing the unpack at the other end and I haven't been involved in the decluttering or the packing process, but I just see what people bring with them. And it's, we talk about doom bags. I see doom boxes, and I'm sure you would see the same. So, didn't organize, only move. They've just thrown things in, and a lot of the time that they get to the other end and they're like, why? And that's actually valuable time that you've spent putting things into a box when you could have just spent 10 minutes at the other end having a bit of a declutter through your paperwork or through kids' toys or books that you no longer reference or need access to. So yes, decluttering is definitely key to a successful move.
Yeah.
I think the other key thing to do is to research your removalist. Look, a referral is always a great place to start. So ask your network, your friends, your family. But failing that, if nobody knows a good removalist or have had a terrible experience, because there are some cowboys out there, I think, minimum of 3 quotes. And you need to be asking some key questions. The 2 questions that I would always ask is, how many moves do they take on in one day?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of removalists will jam pack their schedule, and you could be the 3rd, 4th move they do on a day, and you might be moving into your place at 9 p.m., which is, nobody wants that. So you want to know that they only take on a couple of moves, 2 probably max, and you want to know the size of the team that they are bringing to your move. So 2 men is probably great, but I think 3 or more to make it streamlined, seamless, and efficient is probably ideal.
Yeah, definitely. I think people underestimate the work that goes into organizing the truck and how long that time and that process can take of making sure that the items coming out of your house, going into the truck, are positioned well. And it's actually quite thought out, isn't it, as to how they're putting everything in and jigsawing it, isn't it?
It's real Tetris. And, I can talk about that a little bit later on, but the way you pack is really going to, it's either going to make or break the move, because you need to keep your removalist on site as well. And there's a couple of things that you can do to make the whole process easy for yourself, but also easy for the removalist, and cut down on time.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a key thing. By having a professional organizer assist you does also assist, as in it possibly could cut down the time that you have the removalist, because you've got someone there helping to coordinate it and organize it. That's been my experience when I've helped as well. And then I've done some where I've got prepared, but not done the actual moving day. And that's when they were ringing me the next day. They just dumped it all in the garage, and now we need someone to come and reorganize it and put it in the house in the right rooms.
Yeah.
So
we can't find anything. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the other thing with removalists as well, when you're talking to them, is um, most charge what we refer to as base to base. So if you're choosing a removalist that is on the other side of town and it's going to take them an hour and a half in peak hour traffic to get to your place, you're actually paying for that time. You're also paying for the time at the other end. So that could add 2-3 hours if if it's not a fixed rate that you've negotiated, if it's been charged by the hour. So, and that is very standard. But the aim when I'm looking at a move and working with a client, I want that move to be as efficient as possible. So we only have the removalist for 5-6 hours, not 7-8 hours, because we are really organized.
Yeah, and have everything set up before they even arrive. So, what about tips and hacks that
Absolutely.
you would share for packing up like a pro? Like, there's a couple of tips that I can think of, but I'm sure because you
Yeah.
do it as your main, like, that's one of your main, forms of work. What are some of your tips that you use with clients?
Oh, look, I could talk for hours about this. So I'll just try to give you the top tips. Um, Look, back to the moving truck and how that is packed. You need to have most of your items in boxes. So if you're using the same size boxes, it's modular. They can pack the truck really efficiently. And one thing I see a lot is people have just like got things in bags or they've got lots of loose items. You need to be able to have the majority of your items in boxes. And there are some items that just won't fit in a box, right? So, like I'm thinking, long rolls of wrapping paper or vacuum cleaners, mops, brooms, those sort of things. They're oversized. So what we do is we just use a standard tea-chest box, a large box, and we put the flaps of the box up and tape around it. So we've created what we call an open box. And that's where we corral all those large, oversized items rather than, the removalist going to the shed and getting the rakes and the brooms and then into another room to collect the wrapping paper. It's all together and it fits in the truck really, really nicely. So that's one thing of packing like a pro. The other thing that I really don't like using in a move is bubble wrap. It's great for prints and wall art, some items, but use paper.
Yeah.
Firstly, you can reuse it, recycle it, but it also is perfect for packing fragiles. And I always say to people, I see people who pack for themselves and don't use a packing service or an organizer. I always say we're packing to protect. We're not packing for Christmas, because what you want is you want a lot of air and cushioning around things. You don't need to use sticky tape, because at the other end, that's just going to slow you down on the unpack as well. No movement in boxes is another key item. The moment you have movement in a box with fragile items, that's when things break. So we use paper as well to almost like stuff and fill the gaps. So paper really just becomes, cushioning. That's what we use that for. Look, another key tip, and I see it all the time, is please just pack your boxes a reasonable weight.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with books. Books go in small boxes, not in large boxes. If you can't move the box yourself, it's going to be really hard on the poor removalists on moving day. And it's going to be hard at the other end unpacking. So, you don't need to fill the box to the brim with, with heavy items. Yeah. The other thing, if you're packing like large, oversized items like vases, bedside tables, lamps, use your own linen and blankets or cushions from the lounge, pillows from the bed to protect those. So that's a really easy way to pack 2 items at once, but also to protect your most valuable fragiles.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite tips is like, let's not pack up the linen cupboard yet. Let's use it as
No,
we're
always
packing the
last.
boxes. It's last, and whatever's left, then we'll put it in its own box. But generally, it's going to be used up amongst all the other things that need protection, and even just to fill the top of the box so that the box, like sometimes
Yes.
it's like, I just need 2 more cushions or something
New
just to fix
towels.
that top.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to do the top of the box. Whereas
Absolutely.
other people would just put that over because that's finished to them. And I'm like, yeah, but you want it to be flat so that if something sits on top, it's not going to decompress down.
Yes, I tend to, when I pack as well, especially with a kitchen, I tend to leave a lot of the boxes open until the last
Yep.
minute because you want to maximize the space in each box.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the way I do it. But it's there's lots of different ways to pack, but using your linen cupboard as packing material is key.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's the same. It's like leaving the boxes open, and then you've got that end of that day, and you're like, oh, this one we just need more kitchen. This one needs a bit more lounge things, like there's marked on there. But you'll come back and it's like, oh yeah, we just put miscellaneous in it, and I'm like, as long as you write miscellaneous on it, so we're going to know that the bottom was kitchen, but the top was miscellaneous. So what about on moving day? What are some things that we need to remember and think about when moving day is upon us that day or even the night before?
Oh, the night before.
Yeah.
Look, when I'm working with clients, I often am with them the night before or the
Same.
afternoon before and the morning of the move. So, I'll tend to arrive an hour and a half earlier before the removalist. So they're quite early starts. But like some things you can do is, your last minute essentials box is key. And that needs to be clearly labeled. That's probably one of the boxes where I would use coloured painters, masking tape, because that's the box that's got all your kitchen essentials or bathroom essentials in it. And it's the last box to pack up, but it's also the first box to open at the other end. So you have all your, your things to make your cup of tea, to brush your teeth, all the things that you'll need when you get to the other end. Also, I feel one of the things that people don't often think about is their bed linen. So they're sleeping in their bed the day before the move, and then you have quite a lot that comes off a bed. If you have mattress protectors, sheets, quilt cover, pillows, and sometimes decorative cushions. That can be like 3-4 boxes for a queen or king size bed. So actually thinking about how much space, the volume that is going to take up, and having either bags or preferably boxes made up the day before, so you can just strip the bed and pop those into a box. That's a really good way to be organised on the morning of the move. Fridge and freezer. I think one of the things, a lot of people they eat their fridge down in the lead up to the move. Lots of people don't though.
No.
And there's a lot that comes out of the fridge. So, having cooler bags, eskies ready. One of the key things you don't need to do, you don't need to switch your fridge off. There's a myth that you need to switch your fridge off before the removalists arrive. It can just be switched off as the removalists are taking it out the door pretty much. It's at the other end that you need to let it sit for an hour or so for the gases to settle. But you don't, depending on how far you're moving, you don't need to unpack your freezer. So you can leave all the items in the... Yeah, it's a really good tip. So, leave the freezer as is. As long as it's closed, it's going to stay frozen for several hours. Have a think also about who needs to be where when, because, and who needs access to keys. That is a big one that people come unstuck on all the time. They may only have one set of keys, or the removalists have got, fobs for lifts. If you can have a lockbox at the other end, so anyone can access it, because sometimes you've got, cleaners or trades. A lockbox, both ends preferably, is going to save you a lot of headache having to think about who needs access when, and it's going to free up your time.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Even if it's like, not yours and it's rental, is those lock boxes that have the it's like a lock, so you can put it on anywhere and then you can take it with you as well at the end. Yeah.
That's a great tip. And then, like, they're relatively cheap. They're $30-$40 from Bunnings. Look, something we always do for clients, especially if they have children, is kitchen is always priority to set up, but it's the next area is the kids' bedrooms. We want them to arrive at their new home and instantly see their, the creature comforts and things that they feel familiar with. So we actually spend a lot of time setting kids' bedrooms up. So it's not just making the bed, but it's making sure that they have their favorite books, their favorite toys, that their little area in the bathroom is set up for them. So it instantly feels like home.
Yeah, that's another great tip. Definitely, so that they feel safe coming into this new environment, because it can be quite stressful on some kids. Just that unexpected, not knowing what to expect that day and even that night and where they're sleeping.
Yes. Yeah. Too true.
Yeah. So what if you were to give listeners one tip to be more organized? It can be more organized for a move or just be more organized in general. What would your one tip be?
That's a good question. Just one?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. Look, because we've been talking about moving, I'll stick to moving. It sounds so simple, but clearly label boxes. I can't tell you, even last week I was working with a client who packed an essentials box. They needed to stay in an Airbnb because their settlements hadn't aligned. And so they had a week in an Airbnb and they packed their clothing in a box. But they didn't label it. And we had items going to short-term storage, plus we had items going to the Airbnb, and then we had a few items going to them. Look, it was a three-way move. It was quite complex. So, we just had this missing box because
it wasn't labelled.
It wasn't labelled. It's like we didn't know if it was in storage. We didn't know where it was. So, look, when you're labelling a box, the destination is key. So, sometimes people are moving from a home that, they had a garage at their original premises, but then they move to a new place and they don't. But they might have, a spare room, for example. So labeling for the destination so the removalist knows where to take the box in the new home. Or if you have an extra bedroom or one less bedroom. So clearly writing the destination on the label, and also just really, top line as to what is in that box. So, for me, writing kitchen on a box is just not good enough.
Yeah, same.
It needs to say kitchen, saucepans, fry pans, strainers.
Yeah, definitely. I know. And it might just have the one thing. It's like, if it's just got a kettle, it might have pots and pans and stuff, but it's like one of those important things has been placed in it. It's like, I need to list that there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, my favorite thing, painter's tape. I will use that for important boxes as well. So it's easy to identify. Not only for your essential boxes and for last minute items, but for, TV cables, when you're setting up all the electronics, if there's laptops in it, they're all the things that people want access to right away. Like, you can't go without Netflix for one night. So you need to set the telly up, right? So having that box clearly marked and labeled is key to a successful move.
Do you also use coloured tape for, how you can get these coloured tape for different people's rooms as well, just to help removalist, identify, that's going in the blue room, that's going in the green room, that's going in the red room as well, even though it might say something random on it, but just that colour.
Yeah. I personally don't. I write, and I do it a little bit differently. I don't use a label stuck onto the box.
Yeah.
I use tape and I write on the tape. Sometimes it's because the boxes are being reused. That's the way I was taught how to do it. So I write on the tape itself. But yeah, having really clear destination instructions, you know, like bedroom 1, bedroom 2, ensuite bathroom. But, you know, one of the things I do too is when we arrive at the new home, before the first box even comes off the truck, I will walk the removalist team through the home, show them, you know, what goes where, any special instructions. We've quite often looked at furniture placement because the client and I have sat down and thought about where the dining table is going to go, where the lounge is going to go. So that saves time as well. On moving day, you're not saying, oh, just put the lounge there, and then an hour later you go, oh, that's a really bad spot for the lounge, and so the removalists are having to move it again. Really thinking about sort of furniture placement is key too with a move.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. I'm sure there are so many tips. I've even picked up a few tips that I'll be using with my next client with the next move I'm doing. But just for sharing your tips and ideas around moving, because it is one of the most stressful things that people have to do in their lives. So how can people connect with you? What's the best place to connect with you?
Through my website, so sortbysarah.com.au, and you'll also find me on Instagram at sortbysarah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time.
Thank you so much, Narelle. It was a pleasure.